Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into a story from the world of international trade. It's about a theory that is so logical, so intuitive, you'd think, yeah, that has to be right. But then, an economist took a look at the actual data, and what he found turned everything completely on its head. Let's get into it.
So you see a question like this pop up on an exam. Looks pretty straightforward, right? But this one is famous for tripping people up. Don't worry, we're going to break it all down. By the end of this, you won't just get the concepts, you'll know exactly how to craft that perfect top marks answer.
Here's our game plan. First, we'll get a solid grip on the theory itself. Then, we'll get to the juicy part, the puzzling discovery that threw a wrench in the works. From there, we'll literally build the perfect answer together. And finally, I'll point you to where you can take your studies next. Sound good?
All right, first things first. Before we can understand the puzzle, we have to understand the pieces. So what in the world is the Heckscher-Ohlin theory all about? You know, at its heart, the H-O theory is just common sense. It's all about playing to your strengths. It says that countries are going to export the stuff that they're best equipped to make. And what makes them well equipped? The resources they have tons of. This slide makes it really clear. Think about it. A country like Bangladesh has a massive workforce, right? That means labor is relatively cheap. So it makes perfect sense for them to specialize in things that need a lot of labor, like making clothes. On the flip side, you've got a country like Germany, which is rich in capital. We're talking advanced factories, high-tech machinery. So what do they export? You guessed it, complex, capital-intensive things like cars. You export what you've got. Simple as that. Now, if you've read your MenQ or any other intro econ textbook, this idea should be ringing a bell. This isn't totally new. It's actually building on that fundamental concept of comparative advantage. The H-O theory just gives us the reason why a country has a comparative advantage in the first place. It all comes down to their unique mix of resources. So we have this elegant, logical theory. It just fits. But in economics, a theory is only as good as its ability to explain the real world. So what happened when someone actually tested it? Well, this is where the plot thickens, and our story takes a really interesting turn. Let's set the scene. We're in the 1950s, post-World War II. The United States is an absolute economic giant. It has more capital, more factories, more advanced technology than pretty much anyone else on Earth. It is, without a doubt, the most capital-abundant nation. The theory's prediction should be a slam dunk. So I'm asking you, based on everything we just discussed, what should the U.S. have been shipping out to the rest of the world? The theory says you export what you have in abundance. The U.S. had an abundance of capital, so the answer should be capital-intensive goods, right? Things like heavy machinery, sophisticated equipment. Seems obvious. And then came the bombshell. An economist named Wassily Leontief actually crunched the numbers on U.S. trade, and he found the complete opposite of what everyone expected. The U.S. was actually exporting goods that required more labor than the goods it was importing. This was a direct punch in the face to the Heckscher-Ohlin theory, and this shocking finding became famous as the Leontief Paradox. Okay, so we've got the theory, and we've got the paradox that blew a hole in it. Now for the practical part. How do we take these two pieces and assemble them into an answer that's going to get you full marks? Let's lay out the blue part. The good news is the structure here is beautifully simple. Think of it as a 1-2 punch. First, you define the theory. Clean, simple. Second, you introduce the paradox that challenged it. That's it. Definition, then contradiction. Let's see what that looks like in practice. Here's the first half of our model answer. This is perfect. It's academic, it's precise, and it gets straight to the point. Notice the keywords: export, what's abundant; import, what's scarce. No fluff, just the core principle. This is how you start strong. And here's the follow-up. See how perfectly it connects? It names the paradox, it gives the crucial context, the U.S. being the most capital-abundant country, and then it clearly states the contradictory finding. It explains why it's a paradox, which is so important. So let's just recap that winning strategy. You start with that razor-sharp definition. Then state the paradox clearly. The most critical part. Explicitly connect the two, showing how one contradicts the other. If you want to really impress, you can add a little sentence about the implications, how this puzzle led to new and better theories. And of course, keep it concise. No need to write a novel. And if you ever wondered what's going on in your professor's head when they're grading, well, here you go. Look at how the points are distributed. You get a good chunk for defining the theory and another chunk for explaining the paradox. But see that last row, connection and logic? It's only 2 points, but that's what separates a decent answer from a truly great one. Don't just list the facts, show you understand how they relate. Nailing this one question is awesome, but the truth is, the Leontief paradox isn't an endpoint. It's a doorway into some much deeper and more fascinating parts of economics. So let's talk about where you can go from here. See, the paradox didn't kill the theory. It forced economists to make it better. They started asking new questions, like, what if we're measuring capital wrong? What if we should include things like skilled labor or human capital? What if technology isn't the same in every country? Digging into these questions will lead you to some other really powerful ideas, like the Stolper-Samuelson theorem, which is all about who wins and who loses from trade. And that kind of brings us to our final thought for the day. This whole story of Heckscher-Ohlin and the Leontief paradox, it's more than just a lesson in international trade. It's a lesson in how science works. It shows us that our models are just that, models. They're powerful tools for understanding the world, but we always have to test them against the messy, complicated data of reality. And when that data talks back, that's not a failure. That's when the real discovery begins.